Would you like to say your name, year, course, and university?
Yeah, so my name is Shumile. I'm a second year medical student at the University of Nottingham and Lincoln. So it's a partnership between the two universities.
Could you tell us your hometown?
My hometown is Sheffield.
Could you remind us of the course you're currently studying?
So the course I'm currently studying right now is medicine.
Why did you choose your course?
I think I chose medicine quite a while back, probably when I was in year nine. And I know that seems quite early for a lot of people, but consider this: for medicine, it's relatively competitive. You need to be doing work experience beforehand. You need to prep for the UCAT. There's a certain amount of GCSE requirements that you need. On top of that, A levels as well. So to think about your career, for medicine, you have to think well beforehand, unless you've already got the grades at the end of, the sixth form college and stuff, then that's a totally different thing. But I think people tend to think about doing medicine quite early on. And I think for me, choosing medicine, it was mainly because it's me personally, I like a job or career that is people orientated. And I think it's very important in life to have, lots of people around you. Loneliness is definitely not the one. So, you being a doctor, you're always going to be needed. You're always going to be speaking to people. So, that was one aspect of it. And then, obviously, the other aspects of it is literally, taking care of people. And I think, me personally, I like, to take care of people, to see them get better. And it's just
Hmm.
something that every human, you do something good to someone or to an animal or to an insect, you just feel good afterwards, like, oh, they feel better because of, what you
You.
did, the actions you took. So there is a lot of reasons as to why I chose medicine, but that's not to say I was fixed on medicine. So don't think I was like, 101% fixed. Because I think it's good to explore different avenues as well and not just solely focus on that, because sometimes you might prefer another career over, let's say medicine. And because you actually took time out to actually explore it, you gave yourself that opportunity. So one of the other careers I was looking to was aviation, but I think I had to turn that down because of the price. The price for, doing aviation is unbelievable. It's like £70,000 a year. So it's not cheap.
So you're now, as you said, 2 years into your course. What do
Yeah.
you think of your course so far?
So far, I think it's been now. You've got to bear in mind in terms of the course, overall, in terms of structure. So we have in medicine preclinical and then clinical phase. So right now I'm in my preclinical phase. So that's basically, doing the basics of sciences, learning about anatomy, physiology, all of this different stuff. And so we're learning kind of like from the textbooks and applying our knowledge occasionally at hospitals and all that stuff. But when it comes to third year onwards, we're working in hospitals 9 till 5 every day. So right now it's more so just building up that foundation, building up that knowledge. And in terms of how I personally like the course, I think the course itself, you've got to remember that I've been working towards medicine for a very long time. So for me to be able to, like not like the course is very, very unlikely because I knew what I was getting myself into. You've got to remember that interviewers and medicine admission teams, they all say that you should have a work experience, and you need that work experience so that you know what you're getting yourself into, because medicine itself is 5 to 6 years. That's a very long time. And so 5 to 6 years doing the same thing over and over again, you need to make sure that you want to actually do this career. And there's obviously there will be, a few dropouts here and there, but very, very rarely, very rarely. And that's more so because everyone's fixed on wanting to do medicine. So I think I definitely like it. There have been obviously the ups and downs, but overall, I'd say there's been more ups, and it's quite motivating because you're working towards a certain goal, which is to become a doctor and then do a variety of other different things as well. But I think more, yeah, sorry.
Go on.
So I think more specifically about the course itself at Nottingham, I think it's very well structured in terms of, um, I know there are certain universities out there that, focus mainly on the sciences in terms of, cell biology and all of that sort of stuff, and really rinse the um, basics of sciences. But I kind of wanted to go straight into medicine in terms of just meet patients and all that stuff. So we have that first year patient contact. So in the first 6 weeks, we start, I say clinical rotations, I say we get hospital visits, GP
Mm.
placements, and all that stuff. And throughout that time, we're learning the content at university, but we also get to apply it at hospital as well. So it really does make us feel like, we're actually doing medicine and not
Doing
just
it.
some other, science degree. So I think in that sense, it's really well structured, and I'm happy that I've gone to Nottingham.
So you talked about doing your course and actually working. Does that count as your placement year, or do you have a separate year for a placement?
So when it comes to medicine, we don't necessarily have a placement year. We have literally the third year onwards is our clinical year, and those years, so the next 2 years, is our placement year basically, and we're going to be working till we retire, basically. Just put it that way. So from that third year onwards, we're going to be practicing, and then come foundation year. So the end of fifth year, and then we actually, do a couple of exams, and then we pass on, and then we learn to specialize and all that stuff. So you're constantly on placement, you could say.
Okay. So if we now go into the A level slash subjects for your course, you talked about wanting to do nursing from year 9. So does that mean the subjects you chose from GCSE A levels applied to you choosing this route?
Yes.
So what of those subjects or A levels that you chose were actually beneficial, and which ones did you choose that weren't really as useful?
So when it comes to choosing GCSEs, you've got to remember now, back then, so bear in mind that I'm the first individual in my family to be in higher education. So for me to understand about medicine admissions at the time, university, what it's like, I had no idea. But obviously with the experience and the time that I've spent, I now realize that it doesn't really matter too much about your GCSEs in terms of what subjects you choose, for as long as you have English, maths, and free sciences. That's all they care about. And then a minimum of 5 to 6 grade 7s or A's. So that's like the minimum requirement. And they don't really care. No university cares about what exact subject you do. So in terms of that, it wasn't too much of a big deal. It was more so of a case of actually choosing a subject that I enjoy doing. That was the main priority back then, or should have been the main priority, rather than, dousing yourself in, subjects that look good, but are actually very hard, because that's not going to give you a grade A.
And would you say the same thing for A levels?
A levels. Now, with A levels, you need a biology and chemistry for medicine. That's like compulsory, especially chemistry. Sometimes you can get away with, doing maths and chemistry, or but chemistry is needed for every medical school in the UK. Some require biology and chemistry because it makes sense, learning about the human, you need some sort of biology there. But chemistry was that, that main A level. And the reason why chemistry, and now if you think about it, how does chemistry link to medicine? There's a little bit of correlation, but not so much with the content you learn, more so with the demand from chemistry, A-level chemistry. There's a lot of, hard work that if you put into it, and if you can manage A-level chemistry, you're able to manage medicine. That's what they're trying to say. Because with some other certain, A-level topics or, subjects, the demand of work might not be as much. So doing, a topic such as chemistry and biology, it will just show that you're able to cope with the workload, because medicine workload, no lie, it's a lot. And I think in terms of, so you get a choice of 3 to 4 A levels. Don't think you need 4 A levels unless you're applying to Oxford and Cambridge. Then maybe consider it. But even then, you do not need 4 A levels. So don't put yourself through that stress of choosing 4 A levels. Secondly, you need biology and chemistry, let's say. But what about the third choice? Make sure the third A level is something you enjoy doing. Like if I had the chance, I would have done A level photography. I would have done something completely off the scales. Like I know people tend to go for maths. Don't do that. Have that balance. Do something you enjoy doing. And I think for me as well, so at GCSEs, I chose photography and art as one of my GCSEs, or two of them, and that was one of like the greatest things I've done for myself during GCSEs is choosing a subject that I enjoy doing, and as a result of that, you get those easy A's and A stars, which is what essentially you kind of need for medicine. But when it comes to A levels, make sure you have that breather subject, that subject where you can lay back and you know you'll be able to get a good score.
Okay. If we now go into your university, could you remind us of the university you're currently studying at?
So currently I'm studying at the University of Lincoln, but with the partnership with Nottingham. So I spend 90% of my time in Lincoln.
If we go into the best and worst things about studying at the University of Lincoln, starting off with the worst.
With the worst, now it's surprising because so when I went on open day to a couple of universities, I found that it was not so much about the university itself, it was more so about the city and what I wanted from the city. And in realistically, I haven't found anything bad personally about the University of Lincoln. I think the biggest benefit, in fact, is how small it is, how compact it is, and how everyone's willing to support one another. Because of the small community, you get to know people very easily. Lecturers get to know you. So realistically, in terms of the bad things about, University of Lincoln, there really isn't. And that's me being genuine. I'm not trying to be that student ambassador that's trying to, actually promote University of Lincoln. But on a serious note, Lincoln is actually a very, very nice place to be. And I think you tend to feel very homely when you go to the University of Lincoln. But that's just my personal perception of it. And I think it's provided me with a lot of stuff. So I'm quite glad with that.
So as there are negatives, there must be a lot of positives then.
There are a whole list of positives. So one of them being, I've never ever used public transport within Lincoln, ever. Shows how small it is. Number two is you get to know the lecturers a lot easier, and the lecturers want to know you. You're more of a name than a number. So obviously everyone gets a number or, user ID at university. Yeah, we get referred to as, by our names, not even just on emails and stuff, but actually in person, you get to know people from other faculties. And because me studying medicine at Lincoln, and typically what you'll find is that the cohort for medicine is very, very big. But at Lincoln, it's 80 people. 80 is not a lot. Think about your sixth form in college. That's around 100, maybe less. So 80 is a lot less than you think, and you get to know people a lot easily. There's that aspect of it. And then people are, the lecturers are willing to improve the, the academic experience. When you have like course representatives or people who
compute it like a course rep.
Yeah, course rep. Basically, you propose an idea and they bring it to the staff, and staff basically say no. Here at Lincoln, they actually say yes, okay, we'll do that, and you can actually see the change. So it's nice that we get listened to as well. So there's a lot of positives, and I think so far I've just enjoyed it. So far, I've literally seen improvement after improvement. So I really genuinely don't have any complaints regarding that.
Okay. If we now go into where you were living, where did you live in your first year?
So in my first year, I lived at home. So I live in Sheffield, and Lincoln is an hour and a half away from Sheffield. Now, that commute, I didn't drive. I went via train. So I'd go 20 minutes, 10 minutes from my home to the train station. And then from the train station, I'd then sit on the train for around an hour and a half and then get to Lincoln. The best bit about Lincoln train station is the train tracks run through the university. So I literally hop off and within 20 seconds, I'm on university campus. So it literally is the most easiest commute, you could say. And then on top of that, with financing, when it comes to cars and stuff, I don't have to be spending money on petrol, diesel, maintenance, insurance, all that stuff. I literally have to pay a train ticket that costs me £12 open return. So I can come back whenever I want. So in that sense, that's what I've been doing. And when I say commuting's probably better than living in accommodation, whilst I haven't lived in accommodation, but I can say for sure, I found it much better and much more appealing to be commuting than living in accommodation.
So if we actually just go into that, what do you think the benefits and downsides are of commuting versus living in accommodation?
Okay, so when it comes to commuting, you've got to remember it's definitely a commitment. It's not like you can easily roll out of bed and in 2 minutes you're at your, university.
Uni.
You actually have to wake up pretty early. In the first year, the train times are slightly different. For a 9 a.m. lecture, guess what time I would have to wake up?
6.
No,
7.
no.
5.
Yep. So I would have to wake up at 5 in the morning just to get there for 8:47. So, sorry, 8 o'clock.
The reason for that is,
And the reason for that is because the next train that was meant to come would be late for the 9 a.m. So it would arrive at like 9:45 or something like
so
that.
it's 3 hours before or 1 hour after.
Yeah, it was something like that. But now the train times are getting better. And because of the actual medical school there, it's acted as more of an attraction for businesses, for more people to come, all of that stuff. And as a result of that, train times have like changed, and it just means that more people are coming and going to Lincoln. So in terms of that, in terms of like the commitment side of things, there is a commitment to it. You do have to sleep earlier, you do have to wake up earlier, but as a result of that, there's a list of benefits. One is life experience, like living in accommodation. I understand, you cook, eat for yourself, clean for yourself, all of that stuff. But whilst you're out and about traveling, there's a lot of experience you get with traveling. Being independent, managing yourself. Like, for example, if you're ever stranded somewhere, then obviously you know how to deal with it, how to deal with strangers, actually putting yourself out there in the public. Other benefits are time management, that like I can now, it's weird, but I can now predict what time it might be without looking at my watch. And that's just because so we have this thing called a body clock where, you wake up at a certain time and you go to sleep at a certain time, and you probably also go to toilet at a certain time as well. But for me, when it comes to commuting, you end up taking up these checkpoints throughout the day because you have a certain schedule. You get used to that, and basically it turns down to be.
I don't know why it's. Sorry, it's on silent. I don't know why it's.
Don't worry.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, don't worry. So basically, when it comes to commuting, you have a certain schedule throughout the day, and I tend to like when it comes to actually, going to things like going to the train station or going to university or having to leave Lincoln to go to Sheffield. I know exactly what time it would be, just because of how used I've got to actually commuting,
doing it consistently.
Doing it consistently. And so as a result of that, my time management, I know if I'm a certain mile away from the train station or a couple of miles away, I know I have to leave at within 45 minutes exactly if I have to get there at this certain time. So I've kind of engraved like the algorithm for Google Maps in my head, sort of. So in terms of time management, you're very strict because you can't miss a train. If you miss a train, then you'll be delayed by an hour. And then you've got to remember when you get home as well, you also get to eat your parents' food and all of that stuff. And so you get that time for yourself. You get time to actually do what you want as well. I know in accommodation sometimes there's a lack of personal space. I don't know if you've come across that, but sometimes you just wish to be on your own, and you can do that whilst commuting. You're not living anywhere whilst you commute. You're living at home, but you're going to be out in university. So I can go to a university building, sit on my own for a bit, and then come home. There's lots of different things that you can do when it comes to commuting. So if I was to summarize, saving a lot of money, time management is one. Making friends. Now you probably think you commute, so you're off the radar, and
So you're not going back to accommodations with other people.
So I've never had issues with making friends. In fact, there will be times occasionally where I might stay until 11 o'clock at night. But that's like once in a blue moon. I wouldn't do that often, but you've got to consider this, that I'm there from 9 till, let's say, 5. 9 till 5, and we don't have lectures 9 till 5. In fact, we have only like 3 to 2 hours lectures in a day, or 4 hours maybe. And in those gaps, I would just spend time with friends. So it's literally not a case of so if you want to commute and you're afraid of not making enough friends, don't be afraid of that, because you'll make friends regardless. You'll see people in lecture halls and all of that stuff, so you're bound to make friends at some point. But yeah.
So if we now go into the actual Lincoln area, you said it's very small. You don't have to pay much. What is it like for other things, such as, for students who may want to go out or get fast food or just explore the area and just do different things?
So for me personally, there's a lot of nature in Lincoln, that's for sure. There's like a zoo 20 minutes away, which I didn't know about. There is go-karting. There's we have this thing called the Brayford Wharf, which on there is like cinema, golf, a load of restaurants. Obviously, consider how small it is. You've got quite a lot of restaurants. You've also got the high street as well. It's a landmark as well for the Magna Carta. You've got the Lincoln Cathedral there as well. You've got a whole variety of stuff that you can go and do and see. And so it's not like as if you can't do anything in Lincoln. There's definitely entertainment there. And I think also you've got the train station nearby. So if you wish to actually go to other cities, you can do that as well for relatively quite cheap as well.
So if we now go into, we're talking now to sixth form / college students. What advice would you give to students about to come to university in their first year? General advice.
Okay. I think let's break it down into academics and then social life. So if we look at the academic side of things, how do you prepare, or what sort of things should you be aware of? Whilst I know that, like when I first started, I thought burnout was not a real thing. It is. Like I thought people were just being over dramatic, but I got humbled. It wasn't people being over dramatic. It was more of a case of just experiencing it once, and I think you're bound to experience it at some point, if not at university, maybe later on. But knowing how to deal with it, and the way to deal with it is literally having a secure group of network with you.
Could you explain? Cool. That's fine.
Yeah, what I mean by network is one, obviously there's Freshers Week and you make your friends and you get to know people's faces, their names, get them to know yours, but also try and open up to certain people a little bit more. But that's just a natural process when it comes to making friends. You'll open up in your own time. But apart from friends, what else is there? There's mental health and well-being centers. There's your personal tutors, there's your lecturers, there's your GP tutors at medicine and at medical school. There is peer mentors, there's medic families, there's a whole range of networks that you can open up to. And I think it's very, very important to speak up about how you feel, why you're feeling a certain way. Just speaking to someone makes it so much better. Like a problem shared is a problem halved, basically. And yeah, go on.
And I was going to say, and then the other side?
And then the other side in terms of social life?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the social aspect of things, I think you've got to remember in the first 5 weeks, don't rush to make friends. There's no point rushing to make friends. You rush, you're going to end up, it's going to backfire to a certain extent. I think you've got to remember that everyone is relatively new. Everyone's wanting to meet other people. Everyone's trying to make a good first impression. And whilst that is happening, let people open up naturally. You don't want to force people as your friend in the first week, because a definition of a friend, one of the definitions is a friend who is with you throughout your bad and good times. And you don't know that in the first week, who's going to be with you throughout your bad times and who's going to be with you throughout your good times. So give it time. But the main thing is, I'd say, still put yourself out there, get to network with people, get to know people's names and faces so you're known, but don't rush into befriending people so easily. Like when I say, I think it really depends on what you consider as the definition of a friend. If you think a friend is someone you see every day, you speak to, okay, that's fair enough. Then obviously go and make friends. But if you think of friend as someone who you can trust, who you can open up to, you will not find that out until after the 5th week, because you've got to give it time for people to open up, let loose a little, in terms of any mindset that they've had at the start, and just open up. It's kind of like, squeezing a bud of a flower, and you squeeze it so much that the flower just pops out, but the flower just suddenly droops. Let the flower bloom naturally, and it will then fragrance as well and all that stuff. So let friendship, develop naturally.
Bro, don't force it.
Yeah, don't force it. Because you got to remember, good friendships are not forced. They're effortless. You don't need to put effort in at all.
If you now give advice to do with your course for someone about to study your course, they're about to hit first year and they're about to study your course, what advice would you give?
I think when it comes to advice, now you got to remember, first year of medicine is a trial run. In my opinion, I think you got to remember, all the lecturers know you're coming from A levels or coming from another degree. You've got to remember that you don't want to kick yourself, if you don't get, 90%, 80%. The pass mark at my med school is 40%. So it just screams how, vast and a lot of work you have to put in. And because of that, the pass mark is like 40%. So don't kick yourself because of that. And I think more so, take it easy as it comes. Explore different revision techniques, and work with people, not against people. It takes a lot of energy to work against people, and that also includes, hoarding, your revision techniques, not helping one another. There's a lot of energy taken away from you. If you do all of that, you're not going to gain anything out of, hoarding. But if you actually help someone, you may potentially not only just making a friend, but also you help them. And helping them, you're going to end up, sooner or later, what goes around comes around, basically. You help others today and others will help you tomorrow. So it's as simple as that.
And finally, what advice you give to students wanting to study at your university?
At my university, now the thing is, with medical school, we're literally in the medical school. So there's not much we do within other like universities as such. But in terms of advice, I'd say for every university, go on the open day and see the vibe for it. And I know it's a bit odd, but your gut instinct, if you like the university, your gut will say yes, 100%. You can have I think it's, in terms of advice, it's quite hard. It's more so to do with preference. If you like the university, your gut will say, this is
the one.
This is the one. I think when you go to an open day, you must make sure and ask yourself this: can you see yourself here for the next 5 years or 3 years? And if you can, and if you feel like you're comfortable, then go for it. If you feel like maybe not so sure, don't. You would rather, be somewhere where you actually are happy, or, you're comfortable, that finding a place where you find that peace, because you're going to be far away from home, assumably. So you want to be at ease as well.
You chose going to university over apprenticeship. What path you to make this choice?
So when it comes to apprenticeship, I think at the time, I wanted to do medicine. So there was no option for apprenticeship until last week. So last week, they opened up an apprenticeship for medicine, which will start in September 2023. Now, if I had that opportunity back then, would I take up the apprenticeship? Probably not. For the very reason being, it's funny because a lot of medics are complaining about, you get paid to study medicine, you're not in debt, you get a GMC qualification out of it, you're at the same standard as a normal university doctor, you get the same level of education. It's also a 5-year apprenticeship. It's exactly the same. You're working with medical schools, you're working with different NHS trusts, but the only difference is you're doing an apprenticeship, which means you're going to be working from day one. And there's a lot of questions like, what is the catch? Why don't we all just go on to
Sounds
do
too good to be true.
it. Exactly. It sounds way too good to be true. And if it is too good to be true, and in fact, if it is what it says it is, and there is no catch to it, then it's slightly unfair in the sense that there are students who are in debt, who are facing financial struggles, and they could have done an apprenticeship. And ideally, realistically, it takes a lot of investment, a lot of funding to put into these apprenticeships, to set them up as a scheme, especially for medicine. So I think it would have been better if there was investment in actual medicine today. And I think so far we've just seen increased number of places for medicine, not so much in the actually providing more funding for doctors, and there's a lot of issues going on with salary and all of that stuff.
Course, the NHS and everything now.
So, and if you think about it, the one main bonus, or like you could say benefit, of being in the UK is literally free healthcare, the NHS. And if the NHS collapses, then it's going to be a little bit difficult for the UK in a lot of different aspects. But that's down the line. But in terms of going back, go on.
I was going to say, so if you had the apprenticeship option, and let's say the catch wasn't there, do you think you would have chosen? Do you think the best option is the apprenticeship option over the university?
The issue is, if there is no catch, so my personal opinion, what I think is better, I know for a fact that experience is more valuable than sitting in a lecture hall.
Okay.
So I'd be like, yeah, go for an apprenticeship. But then at the same time, there will be a lot of rivalry. There'll be a lot of, hate. I don't want to say there will be. I'm not trying to manifest or anything, but potentially, because one's earning money and one isn't. And they're both doing the exact same thing. And if anything, the apprenticeship doctor will have more valuable experience from day one. They've been working from day one, and they get the same textbook knowledge as someone who does from a lecture. Now, you know very well how often sometimes students tend to doze off in lectures.
Of course, sometimes you don't even go.
Yeah. So and obviously for medicine, it's a lot stricter in terms of you have to go, but even then people tend to doze off in the lectures. So it really is a case of waiting to see the product of an apprenticeship doctor and see what it's like. And if it is good, then I'd say probably scrap every university course for medicine and turn them into all apprenticeships, because I think that will be a lot better, more beneficial in my opinion. I think, but at the same time, I know these apprenticeships are not for everyone in terms of the requirements. I believe it might be that certain apprenticeship doctors may have to have a second degree under their belt, or if they're in a financial crisis, then they can also do medicine. Applying to medicine is expensive. There's a lot of hidden costs that come with it. I've probably spent over £300-400 just trying to get in, and you don't realize it. UCAS applications, that's like £25. You've got the UCAT, £75. You've got the GAMSAT, which is another £200. You've got, potentially UCAT courses. That's another, let's say, £100, like Medify or other, UCAT courses. And then on top of that, tuition maybe. So already you can see how the prices are stacked up.
Adds up.
Buying a stethoscope, buying your own, I don't know, books. There is so many different things that just tend to add up throughout med school, and you're guaranteed to spend a lot of money on educational resources and just trying to get in. So in that sense, medicine is not that accessible in that financial sense, but hopefully in the future it becomes a lot more easier, but it is hard in that sense.
Who is Medic Hero?
Medic Hero is an individual who wanted to document their journey throughout medical school. So basically that's me. So I wanted to document my journey into medical school because my journey into medicine was relatively difficult, especially from secondary school. In fact, I would have, individuals telling me I can't get in or it's impossible. And, if I was to get into medicine, I would have to sweep the floors of a hospital first and build my way up. So there were comments like that. And I was like, okay, now I've got into medicine. I really want to make it worthwhile. And I wanted to document my journey. I wanted people to see my development, but then also I wanted to influence others who are considering medicine, who are considering higher education to actually, to be able to get in. But now I'm here. That was my initial reason with, my YouTube channel. I think now that I'm in medicine and in my, going into my second year, I think it's important for me to also emphasize the importance of a work-life balance. And it's not just applicable to medicine, other courses as well. Having that balance of, doing other things in your life, not just, a university course degree. Because one mistake people tend to make is making medicine their life or medicine their personality. And if you take medicine away from them for a second, they'll feel a little bit lost. So I'm trying to go out and do other things other than, just medicine. So like right now I'm trying to plan, and hopefully I will, but work towards my private pilot's license. So begin to fly a plane as a hobby and trying to get a scholarship for that. But it's relatively difficult, but I'm trying to emphasize the point of not just doing medicine throughout your entire life. You're going to be doing medicine at the end of the day. Do something else alongside. So that's what I'm trying to do.
At this point, I let students have what I like to call a free-for-all. You can say what you want about what you like. You can say something smart. You can say something dumb. Literally, the floor is yours.
Okay, so you've put me on the spot here. So say whatever I want. Okay, so I know it's going to be so random, but I was reading the other day about photographic memory and how you can also develop a photographic memory as well. Like, is that something you've wanted at some point, just to be able to look at something and just memorize it?
Just look at it and then think, I need to remember that. But sometimes you forget. Sometimes other things get in the way, but carry on.
So I think when it comes to photographic memory, there are a couple of rules that I've studied. Rule number one is to eliminate distractions. That's like the biggest rule of them all. Eliminate mental distractions. Get rid of your phone, because your phone is there in front of you, but you're constantly, at your phone or constantly checking all that stuff. When it comes to memorization, you've also got to remember that you need to find your style of learning. Are you a kinesthetic learner? Are you someone who's an auditory visual learner who learns from reading and writing, all that stuff? Once you find out your style of learning, then you can use that to your advantage and memorize certain, things using that style of learning.
May I ask, what is your style of learning?
So my style of learning is a mixture of visual and kinesthetic. So actually doing the thing and actually visually seeing it. But you've also got to remember, you can't just use one style of learning. You have to use another to complement yourself as well. And then lastly, make sure that you review your content or whatever you're trying to memorize within the next 4 hours, because the main thing is not actually about, retaining information. It's about retrieving information. It's funny because you get hypnotists who, are able to retrieve information from you, and you probably like, whoa, I didn't even know that I had that in the back of my head. And we have a lot of information stored in our long-term memory. It's just a case of retrieving it. And the power
like
to
retrieve door kind of thing, like a storage unit.
It's a storage unit, and that storage unit, according to research, is unlimited. So we have an unlimited amount of storage, but it's a case of actually plucking it out.
Taking it out.
And if you can do that, then that's amazing. But another exercise you can do to test that is at any one time, if you're with your friend, ask them to close their eyes all of a sudden and ask them to name whatever they remember that was around them. It will just show how much they actually absorb. And it will also teach you to stay in the moment. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and I am plugged in.
Amazing. Thank you.